So as you know, my name is Lenton. I'm an arts, theatre, music and festival publicist, but in the last couple of years, or 6 years or so, I've also dabbled in a few marketing roles, admin, production, box office and ushering. So I'm pretty much working my way around the arts industry, one back-of-house job at a time. There is, of course, the memorable time that I did step on stage to fill in for a swine flu-riddled sketch comedy performer. But that's a story that I only tell if you've plied me with whiskey. I've been working in Sydney with a brief stint in Edinburgh for the last couple of years, where I've had what is a pleasure to work with clients like Sydney Festival, Edinburgh International, Mill Crate Theatre, Urban Theatre Projects, Queen Street Studio, Form Dance Projects, Underbelly Arts Lab and Festival, among others. If you're not sure what it is that a publicist exactly does, that's completely okay. My mum still has no idea. Publicists are the middleman. They're the one pitching a story about an artist or a musician to the editor of a magazine or newspaper. They're the ones suggesting and organising interviews for radio stations. They're the ones coming up with the really cheesy photo shoots, like opposite graffiti walls that you see in MX. That's us. We don't deal with advertising. That's more on kind of on the marketing side of things, but I think social media is one area where the two definitely do overlap, and publicity kind of often sits within the marketing kind of side of things. A quick background on how I became a publicist, because it's not something that you really intend to do, I don't think. I didn't. I did a media and communications degree, and then I had to do an internship, but doing a bunch of production and things like that at uni, and sort of hadn't got around to doing the internship I had to do. So I went and did one at Sydney Festival because my friend had done it, and she got heaps of tickets to things and it seemed really fun. And everyone said to me, do the publicity one because they get all the leftover media tickets. You'll go to something every night. So I did that, and it was fun. And it kind of seemed to make sense to me. And then it turned out that there's not many publicists working in arts in Sydney. So I was very lucky to be taken by Helene Fox, who was at Sydney Festival and moved on to the Opera House after that. And she mentored me on a bunch of projects. And then suddenly I was a freelance publicist, and I don't know how that happened. When presented with the theme of Technicolor, I did spend a little bit of time trying to weave in the fact that the first production I saw was Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And my brother, who's a playwright and producer, and I used to put on really horrible versions and charge our parents to come into the lounge room to see it. So that was apparently something that was there from the beginning. I also wondered if Technicolor was the right platform on which to talk about being a queer woman and all things rainbow, but being a lesbian arts administrator is so boring. It's so cliche. But in thinking more seriously about Technicolor as a filmmaking process that was developed almost 100 years ago, and the reason why Fantasia and Singing in the Rain are enduring films that the people are still watching, and can you imagine them in black and white? They couldn't be. It got me thinking about why it is I continue to work with artists, even though they can frustrate me to no end. And I seriously asked my colleagues for a count of times that I've shaken my fist and exclaimed, "Bloody artists," into the office ceiling. Not everyone's cut out for a life in the arts industry, but I think for most of us, we struggle to think of anywhere else where we would be consistently challenged and inspired and have the most chance of living a life that's fulfilled. I also hear there's less free booze and earlier starting times in other industries, but that's a rumour I'm not sure I want to see proven as fact. The founders of the Technicolor Motion Picture Corporation persevered for decades before they saw Technicolor truly embraced by major studios. And by then, it was quite quickly superseded by other technologies. They faced the Depression. They made little profit. The act of making films with Technicolor was cumbersome because of the gigantic cameras. And I did think of putting a slideshow together, but the only photo I wanted to show was of the cameras. They were like this big and really heavy looking. But Technicolor remains a crucial stepping point in colour filmmaking technology. Without it, we wouldn't be where we are today. We're still watching and enjoying films that were made by studios that were brave enough to take that risk. And that's what excites me. It's that kind of blind enthusiasm for potentially changing the world, or at least the way we laugh at the world and we're entertained while we're in it, that I see in the artists that I'm lucky enough to work with absolutely every day. Artists constantly question and play with what they see in the world around them. They see the world in a completely different way than I do and on a different spectrum. So if it turns out that I have the skills to promote what it is that they're doing to the world and to get bums on seats when that's necessary, then I'm going to use them. At Underbelly Arts Lab and Festival, and here's a blatant sales pitch, we're currently 2 days into the 8-day lab period on Cockatoo Island, which leads to a big ticketed festival weekend next weekend. I see artists who are pushing boundaries and playing with new technologies all the time, who see the empty and potentially quite bleak surrounds of the industrial precinct in Cockatoo Island and come up with these crazy, beautiful ways of activating it and engaging with audiences. There's immersive performances where you get to be the performer. There's real-time Twitter-based works, which fellow speaker Chris Rodley will tell you about. There's sculptural installations with a really important political undertone. There's a geolocative smartphone app that's being developed about the history of the island in 1871 when it was a reform school for girls. There's an artist who's making 3D printouts of your thoughts. Like, these are ideas that they're doing that I still can't fathom, even though I'm talking about them to people every day. This is Underbelly Arts' 5th Lab and Festival, and it's its 2nd on Cockatoo Island, and it's the 3rd festival that I've worked on. And I've had the privilege of being involved as it has grown, and they've trusted me to work with their brand and as I've grown as a publicist as well. I see our point of difference as the lab, which is completely free and lets you in on the art making process, and also how truly multidisciplinary the work is. It jumps from performance to dance to electronic sound art to so much more. I'm working with over 100 artists at the moment at Underbelly Arts. The 600 figure was who we've kind of helped over the last 5 festivals, so we're not lying there. And any one of them could be the brainchild of something as big as TECHNICOLOUR. Who knows what invention we might be talking about in a forum like this in 100 years. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and it's what gets me on the phone to journalists and editors till one of them takes notice of what I'm talking to them about. And hopefully that's what's persuaded some of you to maybe come out and engage with this work as well, because it's really quite beautiful to see.